Greetings, I'm Nick Reveles, the Director of Education and Outreach for San Diego Opera, and this is the San Diego Opera Video Podcast. It's my honor today to have with us tenor Ben Heppner, who's singing the role of Captain Ahab in Moby Dick. Ben?
Thank you.
I am so delighted to have you. I've been dreaming of the moment that one day we would have the opportunity to have you sing on our stage, and here you are.
I'm delighted to be here. I also love the fact that you called it a podcast because, of course, that's applicable to Wales.
Exactly, of course. And just the other day, talking to John Lamalu, he said that Lenny, I guess, has been saying something to the effect that your rehearsals are rather like being on the Pequod.
Yes.
And being self-contained like that. And at the end of the podcast, I said something to the effect of, yes, it's sort of nice to think of an opera production as a whaling journey, but one that always comes back.
Yes, that's right.
Successful.
Oh, yes, it will end
With all
successfully.
3 tons of whale oil, and yeah. But I'm just thrilled about this. And I want to talk to you about the origin of the role for you. How did it come your way?
Well, I think I was asked at a relatively early stage before Jake had set pen to paper, but things were on the go, and they asked me if I'd be interested in doing this role of Ahab in Moby Dick. And I mean, I'm a big supporter of modern opera. I think that it's one of the ways that opera can save itself from itself, perhaps. Rather than doing Traviata, as I saw actually in Berlin a couple of years ago. Traviata is Princess Di.
Yeah.
I think that's very tiresome. So I was quite thrilled that we had the idea to do a new opera. Although I have to say, I said yes immediately, but I was thinking, Moby Dick, 800 pages, and an opera is approximately 2,500 words.
Yeah.
It's not very long. How do you condense that?
Well, then you had the same questions all of us did.
Oh, for sure. And how are they going to do the peg leg? Well, wait a second, I'm going to have to do the peg leg. So that was very interesting to me.
Then once you were cast, Jake really created the role to fit your voice?
Yes, we had one go through Act 1 before he finally completed the entire opera. Act 1 was finished, and he was working through Act 2. And so Act 1, he when he went through it, and I was just listening. I wasn't singing or anything. I was just listening, and I said, I think there's too many high notes here. If I can do them, but if I do them, first of all, I'll tire myself out.
Right.
And secondly, how will they know when it's really important and really emotionally stressful or exciting or whatever if we go there all the time? And he was very good about hearing that
and making adjustments
some adjustments. Now I have to say the tenor that sings Greenhorn that's high.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's better him than me.
Yeah. Then where does it lie then for you now? Is it
it's good. It's upper middle, sort of where I'd say what we call the tessitura, which is sort of the mean, the average
right.
of the role, is middle and upper middle, and it had a lot of what we call passaggio. There's kind of an acoustical break in every voice,
right.
And it lies slightly differently depending upon your voice type, and it was a little consistently too much in it. So that's one of the things that he changed.
So how now at this point, how does it compare to some of the other roles that you typically do, like an Otello or a Tristan?
Well, it fits very, very close, probably closer to Tristan in terms of where it lies in the voice.
Because Tristan is also not terribly high.
Tristan's not terribly high. I think I don't even think he has a B flat. I think he just has high A's as the high note, and this has at least one B flat that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Anyway,
There may be another one.
No, there's a couple. Yeah, they're written as A sharps, I think. But it's probably more similar to that than Otello is. Well, it's quite similar, I suppose. But there's, because of the length of it, I think maybe that's where the comparison is stronger.
Would this be an easier sing than Otello?
Oh. No.
Really?
No, it's
that's
about the same.
Huh.
It's about the same, except I don't get a love duet. And there's very moments. In a certain sense, it's like Otello in that there's not a lot of moments to be that are softer and have that show a different side of Captain Ahab, because he's obsessed, and we have to get to the shortcuts of showing that.
Right.
So he's obsessed. He's maniacal. And we have to sort of get to that, and he has to control the crew, get them on his side somehow. And there's only one moment in the opera. It comes towards the end. There's a scene with Starbuck where suddenly Ahab comes out and says, "That's a nice wind. It's a mild day, isn't it?" You know, and they sort of share this moment, and Starbuck leaps on it to try and shift Ahab's mind, perhaps to going back to see all of the things that he loves, his relatively recent wife, his boy, a more idyllic life back in Nantucket.
Musically, that's a wonderfully what's the word? It's a sort of a restive moment. It's almost pensive.
Yes, yeah.
Until he sees
He sees the whale, yeah.
And then that's the end of that.
That's right. And actually I have to say, when I'm coming, I only have about a couple of minutes off, and it's important. Those rests are hugely important to me, because I've got to sit down and take the stress off of the one leg that's not pegged.
Yeah.
And then come out again, and from that moment on, I'm on stage till the end. And at that point of the evening, I'm kind of thinking, oh, okay, this is here we go. Steel yourself.
The issue of the peg leg must make the sing more challenging.
Much more challenging. Particularly with someone who's aging a bit. I've not been kind on my knees over the course of my life. They've been under a lot of stress for a number of years, and so that is where I feel it mostly. Is the good leg is where I feel it, not the bad, not the peg leg. The peg leg is easy, quite frankly.
But you're carrying all your weight on the good one.
Yeah. So twice the work all night. Yeah. And what happens then is, as you're getting around stage, is your sort of core strength has to kind of strengthen up to move well. Those are the ones that we use to support as well. We use the core strength to sing with, but they're already kind of occupied with doing other things. That's very difficult. And you have to learn. A couple of times I move while I sing, but most of the big stuff is while I'm stationary. And then you have to kind of learn to, relax and get into the singing part. Don't get into the leg, the moving about with the leg musculature.
Yeah, and I imagine that there comes a certain point when you're doing this that you just have to forget about it.
Oh yes,
you can't.
Yeah. Well, there was some book. You will be reminded. You are always reminded. There's one point when I switch the cane for a spear, and I take the spear and I make a very threatening move. We'll let the audience see what that is. But as soon as that comes off the ground and I'm pointing it in the direction, all of a sudden I begin to feel like unstable, and I'm thinking I'm only a foot and a half from the edge of the stage. Whoa!
Oh, the perils of singing opera. Now, had you read Moby Dick prior?
You know, I did, and I have to say, it wasn't very pleasant for me.
Yeah.
I did it under a time pressure because I felt I sort of had to do it.
Right.
And so I did it under time pressure, and I think mine might have been abridged a little bit. I had like 600 pages. I think it's closer to 800.
It is. Well, depending on how you read it, it might even be 9. It's a big read. It took me 6 months.
Yeah, and I just, I had 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was just plowing through it. And I don't think I absorbed the eloquence of Melville, with the way that he writes it and all the intricacies, because I was sort of having to plow through it. and not having left enough time for myself. I did have time if I would have been smart enough when they asked me to start reading it. But then you get research materials and things like that, and those are really helpful.
That always helps.
Yeah.
I always like to ask, though, because it's interesting to find what singers have to say about the original source material that many operas come from.
Yes.
Whether they've,
Well, take Otello, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
I plowed through that too, and I think the opera's better.
Yeah, oh, it is. Well, of course, we're opera people, we would say that.
Yes.
People might disagree with us. Just as a sideline, I'm wondering, how do you feel today about the current state of the opera business? Where do you see us right now, and where do you see us going as a singer who's singing everywhere and who's had a big international career?
Well, I'm not certain I have that perspective on things. It seems that with the last 3 years, or slightly more, 3.5 years of financial uneasiness, the budgets are being cut back, and when the major corporations, they probably are starting to pull funding from operas and things, so all of a sudden we're starting to lose opera companies, and I know in Canada the one in Ottawa has bit the dust just recently, and others are working hard to just tread water at least. Some are doing okay. I think the Canadian Opera Company in Toronto is doing all right, but there is I think an issue of gaining a younger audience to try to pull in what seems to be a graying audience, and they're doing all sorts of things. Germany has settled in on the approach of taking old operas and doing rude things to them,
turning them on their heads.
Yeah, there was this was years ago, an Idomeneo that I did back about 20 years ago in Amsterdam, and Mozart, this wonderful opera seria by Mozart, was done as if Idomeneo were a type of Saddam Hussein. So this was following directly the First Gulf War, and it's not going to work because it's imposing something that isn't there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we had people in silk boxer shorts, and that's all, carrying cruise missiles and bombs and doves of peace, which was, I guess, supposed terribly meaningful, but I kind of missed it.
I've been so intrigued with your career over the years, and you've done so much work in this country, as well as all over the world, and of course your base was Canada. A couple of questions. Did you ever work with Jon Vickers?
No, he retired essentially before my career got going.
I often wondered, because you sing much of the same literature.
Yes.
And I thought, he being a Canadian singer, there might have been some connection at one time.
I met him on just 2 occasions, actually, and they were both to do with the same person. One was an honoring thing with the Governor General's awards in Ottawa, and it was for a singer by the name of Lois Marshall, who didn't have an operatic career, mainly because she had polio when she was young. And then that's when John and I met the first time, and the second time was at her memorial service. And but I heard through his kids that he followed my career quite closely. In fact, at the memorial service, he as we were getting, because we were both speaking, he turns to me in the sort of the briefing session before we went before the public, and said, "Ben, are you singing too much?" And so I kind of laughed, and I said, it's just smoke and mirrors. I said, if you see me in a magazine, it doesn't mean I'm singing everywhere. Anyway, so and I know that he would send his kids to spy on me.
I love it. That's great.
He's an amazing example for all of us. I mean, I have to say that people make comparisons between us, and I say, are you kidding? There is no comparison. Jon Vickers is who he is, and there's no way I can sing like that.
Well, the dramatic commitment was incredible.
Yeah.
I only had the opportunity to hear him twice. It was in New York when I was living there in the early 80s, and I heard him do a Parsifal, which was stunning. But I think probably the finest performance of anything I'd ever seen was his Peter Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
It was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was really, really quite wonderful. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, and I'm looking forward very much to seeing your Ahab again. I saw it in Dallas,
great.
and I was thrilled, and
I hope the whole crew here comes in to watch us and see whether we might succeed that night in actually getting Moby Dick.
They will. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.